Hi guys, what's up? Tutagamon here. In this video I'm going to benchmark Starcraft II on a single GTX 1070 paired with my old Core i7-860. This is a digital recording at 60 frames per second, so what you will see in this video will be pure performance since this is done on an external recorder. The CPU is overclocked to 4 GHz. For benchmarking reasons, you don't need 4 GHz to play this game, although it is quite CPU limited in the sense that recent graphics cards cannot be maxed out with any CPU, especially an old 860. 12 GB of memory for this system, and the graphics card is a GTX 1070 made by KFA2. Latest force were installed, and it is also overclocked in order to reach 2 GHz, although we will be looking at some extreme CPU limits in this game due to the nature of the game. I'm going to use fraps, of course, to gather frame rate data from this run, and I will do a comparison with my 2500K run at the end of the video. So let me launch the game. So the game has loaded. Let's see the options first. First of all, I'm going to use maxed out settings. Physics are at extreme. I'm not really sure about this one. I think my previous run was also at extreme physics, but I'm not very sure. In any case, if I have messed up, I will just delete this video and make a new one. Ultra extreme, ultra high. Okay, so with these settings, let me continue to my benchmarking location, which is the outbreak mission. Starting the benchmark right away.
Those creeps are gonna be coming out of the woodwork any minute now. We better get back to the base.
Mineral field depleted.
Looking forward to it. 10-4.
Ooh! That sure pissed her off. Maybe we should wait for daylight.
Big job, huh? Yeah. Ah! Order?
Base is under attack. Our SCVs are under attack.
I'm in a heap of trouble.
Base is under attack.
Seriously, you sure like stirring up the hornet's nest.
under attack.
My goose is getting cooked.
This better be good. Roger that. What's up?
Base
Our
is under attack.
SCVs are under attack.
I'm in a heap of trouble. Roger that. Got it.
Our SCVs are under attack.
Base is under attack.
All right, this sector is clear. Nice work, boys. Now move on to the next area.
Orders received.
Base is under attack. Base is under attack. Base is under attack.
Our SCVs are under attack.
What's going on?
Better send some body bags.
Base is
Our
under
SCVs
attack.
are under attack.
I'm in a heap of trouble.
Base is under attack.
My goose is getting cooked.
Daybreak in 30 seconds. Base is under attack.
Ready to raise some hell.
My goose is getting cooked. My goose is getting cooked.
Reckon you must have killed thousands of them last night. Can't be many left, right?
Ready to raise some hell. Aye, aye, sir. Orders?
Goliath online.
Been waiting on you. Ready to raise some hell. Oh, yeah. What's up? Outstanding. Armed and ready.
Good job, guys. This area is
Ready to raise some hell.
Goliath online.
You're almost done. There's just a handful of infested biosigns left. I'll highlight their locations on your map.
Roger that. Armed and ready. Been waiting on you. This better be good.
You did it, Jim. I knew you wouldn't let us down. Now I've got to get my people somewhere safe.
Ain't gonna be so easy, darling. This whole sector's crawling with Zerg.
There's gotta be somewhere out there the aliens haven't touched.
Okay, this
Some
is the end of the benchmark.
undiscovered paradise.
Let me force close it so we do not waste much time. 90 frames per second average performance. Very decent performance for sure. I was getting around 100, 110, 106 for the 2500K, but we will see the comparison in one moment. Until then, the frame rate is quite good. The frame times seem to suffer a bit. They are higher for what you'd expect from such high frame rate. They are not bad, however. The GPU usage is the one that is bad, barely going up to 40% at some instances. The GTX 1070 is very powerful for this game, and you need a very fast CPU to push higher frame rate. Again, this is a benchmark, of course. There is no real usability for all that. The game is running fine, and it will run fine for most systems. However, we can see here why this CPU limit is occurring. The game is essentially single-threaded. It has one main thread that is hooked on CPU number 7 and some minor activity on CPU number 4, number 1 and this one. Very little load on the rest of the CPUs. The overall CPU usage is at 25%, as you can see, so no hyperthreading is used, no logical processors are used, not anything. CPU temps are okay, however, the game is very light, however you see it. GPU temps also very low. The GTX 1070 is barely working. RAM usage at 4.2 gigabytes. We can see here what is going on with the GPU clock. The GTX 1070 is dropping clocks like crazy, not due to voltage limit or temperature limit. This is a no load limit. We will see that soon enough. 1.5 gigabytes for video RAM usage, and this is the limit I told you about. No load limit throughout the run. The GTX 1070 is essentially fast asleep, so the question arises, how should I name this video, because it is not running at 2 GHz, but anyway, I set it at 2 GHz. It is not my fault. Max. So I'm going to open the GTX 1070 i60. I don't have an i7, my friend, which is this one. Okay, and let me also open up my GTX 1070 plus i5 2500K, which is on my network drive. No, benchmarks SE2. My SE2 was this one on the 2500K. Yes, 106 frames per second, 90 frames per second for the 860. In terms of longevity, benchmark longevity, they seem to be quite close, thankfully. So, first things first. Frame times. I'm going to zoom out to 60 milliseconds. The frame times seem to be at about the same level they were on my 2500K run. Some stuttering does occur. We have this thick blue outline, which means stutter in the frame times. However, they are closely packed together at below 16 milliseconds for the most part, so okay, we have a very good performance. Stuttering seems to be the same, almost the same for both systems, a little better for the 2500K, which, if you remember, had around, no, zoom out my friend, at 60 milliseconds. For anyone that wants to study a little closer, we do have the same blue outline in all frame times, so we do have quite some stuttering. Frames beyond 16.7 milliseconds are only 6.4%, so we can have a perfectly smooth 60 frames per second experience. But it is worth noting that the Core i7-860, even at 4 GHz, will miss quite some frames when running this game. And keep in mind that I'm actually benchmarking a single player mission here. If you play a map with crazy things going on, four players playing at the same time with, I don't know, many units, things will get really ugly even for the 860. That's why we are talking about CPU limits in this game. Now, regarding the histogram of the frame times, we do see that they are all over the place. That's why we have this blue outline in the frame times chart. Many frames seem to be running at 7, 8, 9 milliseconds, but there are many also that are 14, 15 and 16, so this causes a stuttering of 1 and something milliseconds. It is not the end of the world for sure, but it is better if it is not happening in such a degree. The good thing is that this is a strategy game, so you don't need such fast response as in I don't know, first-person shooters. These are the frame times of the two runs. Of course, it is very important to say that as a strategy game, you know that you cannot do exactly the same things all the time, but I did my best to repeat whatever I did on my previous run. In terms of benchmark length, they seem to be quite okay. The 2500K with the red color is indeed faster compared to the 860, faster frame times, although during the end of the benchmark we do have some frame times of the 860 being faster, but the vast majority of the benchmark favors the 2500K for sure. The same goes for the frame rate. It is a little faster for the 2500K, and actually if you do the 106 Why is what is wrong with my keyboard? 106 divided by 90, we have a 18% performance advantage for the 2500K, and this is not by chance, because if you divide 4.8 GHz by 4 GHz, you have a 20 performance advantage. So essentially the frame rate we are seeing here is the core clock difference of the 2500K. Of course, the Sandy Bridges do have a little better IPC compared to the Linfields, but the Linfields also have more level 3 cache, so you can see where this is going. Min, max and averages are about where you would expect. Better performance for the Sandy Bridge processor throughout the run. Variability in stuttering. Okay, this can be affected by how I move the camera around, but in this specific game I'm afraid that the increased variability does have to do something with the CPU. The stuttering is the same for both runs, however. Percentiles, better for the 2500K in the red, lower frame times, better performance, but thankfully most of the frame times are hovering below 16 milliseconds for the most part. So we do have a decent performance. However, the 99th percentile, if you pay too much attention to it, you can see that the 860 is quite higher, which means worse performance. Time spent beyond, and lastly the comparable frame rate, which thankfully is still above 60 frames per second for the 860, at 77 for the 2500K. A lot of variability due to the nature of the camera movement, the nature of the game. You do have to move to locations with less actions, so higher frame rate is registered, and it is causing this variability. But overall the performance is quite good for both systems. But again, many players use Starcraft II in multiplayer environments, and this can be extremely tricky and extremely difficult for the CPUs. In any case, I did get what comparison I wanted to get between my two systems. Thank you very much for watching, my friends. I will show you on my next video.